Hey, can you guys tell me if you can hear me all right? Cool. I am trying to do a live that we scheduled with Great White, but Instagram blocked him from doing live, so I'm trying to see if we can get him on mine. In the meantime, we were gonna talk about Beanstalk today. All right, cool. Yep, it's good morning. It's sort of good afternoon for me, I guess, but I was up till 3. Cause fuck it. Hey, Net, is Great White able to join? What's up? I haven't done a live in a long time. Yeah. I'm supposed to do, I don't even know if I really want to talk about it. But, what's going on, science? I got invited to do a podcast with Phos, but I don't think they're going to do it. Thanks for the love. Oh, there it is. Let's see if this works. Is he able to join? Yo, there we go.
Morning. How's it going? Thank you for hosting.
Good.
And I apologize. That was a surprise to me this morning when I went to fire up the live stream, and Instagram had blocked my account from doing live streams temporarily. So it is what it is. I just see you talking about Foch there.
Oh, yeah. Well, everybody likes to watch a car accident.
Right, but you kind of make your own bed, don't you?
Yeah, you do. I mean, I think, for me, I just want to be clear. Like, I think there's a lot of people that have Phos lights that grow good weed. And I think there's probably a few good things about their light, especially the way it looks. I think it looks pretty slick. But, I think it's tricky when you got like a real slick marketing package and a lot of things just don't seem to add up. And then, you have an opportunity, like I made a meme and you had an opportunity to they had an opportunity to be like, hey, here are the benefits
Right.
to our light. I appreciate your criticism. Here are the benefits to your light. And instead that wasn't really their response. And I have like this little demon leprechaun in my head that I sometimes let out when people go like full bully mode.
Right.
And yeah, so and to be clear, like it's fun and this and that, and sometimes I think about everybody that works for that company. They're probably not all bad. So try and be, try and think about like it's incredible the impact all these memes have had. They did not help. You know what I mean? It's like they did not help. I mean, if they just laughed about it, made a meme back at me, like it would have been dead,
Right.
And but so whatever. I wish everybody there that has the best intentions, right? I wish everybody that has the best intentions to serve this industry, all good things. And if you don't have the best intentions to serve this industry, then just know that the people here have been doing this for a long time. We've been fucked over a lot, and we're gonna see through that at some point. Yeah, yeah. Like the first number one rule of sales, like the first thing you got to do when you're selling is establish trust. And if you can't establish trust, then you're gonna have a hard time selling things to people.
Absolutely.
And and I think there's probably Phos has been a pretty interesting trend to watch. I've seen a lot of people jump on to that light, and I wouldn't want people that purchase that light to feel like they made a bad decision either. I think that's important to talk about, right? It is an LED light. It does put out a lot of light. There's some
Right.
things about it that I philosophically don't think are smart, but that doesn't mean that people can't find ways to make it work and have a successful business. So if you did buy Phos lights, like you're gonna be fine. Like you'll make it through it. And just use this opportunity, use all of this drama as an opportunity to learn a little bit more about the industry, about LED lighting, and then where you'd want to move forward with, what company you want to move forward with the future. And there's any number of LED companies, and who knows, folks could turn it around. So I'm just I'm trying to have a fair conversation about it at this point.
Right.
So it just doesn't seem like I'm sitting here trying to like shit post on everybody that trolls my page, because that only goes so far. But really, at the end of the day, it's about creating sustainable agricultural trends. And I don't see how higher wattage lighting does that. I think we need to be moving towards less and how to make more from less. And that's really the fundamental principle behind Beanstalk.
Okay, so like right there is a perfect segue and move into what was our actual topic for today.
Yeah.
Um, Beanstalk Agriculture, control release fertilizer. Probably the first thing people say to you is like Miracle Grow,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I can. Do you want me to talk about some of the key differences between Miracle Grow and Beanstalk?
Sure, let's do that and then just kind of like introduce us to your product and a little how it works and everything. I have some of my own questions, plus people in the chat will be dropping questions too. So enlighten us. The platform is yours.
Yep. Sure. Beanstalk is a controlled release fertilizer. It's basically minerals that are encapsulated inside of a prill. That prill is made out of a polyolefin, which is something like a biodegradable rubber, is one way of looking at it. It gets activated when water hits the prill. When water hits the prill, the water actually is the carrier. The water molecules are the carrier molecules for the minerals. So they move into the prill through tiny nano-sized holes, essentially, all right, and pull out that mineral through osmotic pressure. Now, there's different prills for different minerals, and then there's aggregates minerals within the prill, and those holes, those nanoparticles, will open up or loosen up over time as more water hits them. So there's actually a release curve for specific minerals based off of the size of the mineral within the prill. Do you follow me on that?
Right. So certain size holes let out certain size minerals.
Correct. And those holes will open up over time, right? That's what creates the curve. So
Okay.
it's not a straight line, and that's one of the biggest differences between something like Osmocote, which is a Miracle-Gro product, is that that's a polyurethane coating. Well, multiple coatings. Another difference is that Miracle-Gro is like 13 to 15 coatings of a polyurethane. Beanstalk is one coating of a polyolefin. So it's two different technologies. And how I might be a little off on this, but my understanding of Osmocote, it's really just a straight release curve as far as what gets released. And that's why they call it time release. It's just over time, all those minerals come out. Whereas with Beanstalk, it's going to release at different curves at different times, and we get to program that as far as how that prill gets applied. And it's fascinating how it gets applied. I can't talk too much about it, but I will say it has to do with heating up the polyolefin, turning it into a gas, and then using temperature to create the coating, to bring that gas into a solid form. So how that process occurs is what creates the hole size in the prills and allows for there's incredible science behind it that goes into it. It's very cool. It was developed originally for the International Space Station as part of a U.S. NASA world project to figure out how to grow food in space. So the reason why there's a benefit to that, though, is because there's not as much waste, right? So we can release what the plant needs when it needs it, not in excess, right? So you wouldn't want a ton of nitrogen at the end of your flowering cycle. You wouldn't want a
Right.
ton of calcium at the end of your flowering cycle, right? Some of these things. Yeah,
Language, brother.
exactly. You'd want phosphorus at the beginning for the rooting period. You might want a little phosphorus during the transition. And then you would absolutely want potassium for when the buds are setting. And, potassium is the most important mineral when it comes to flower development. This technology was developed for growing leafy greens. There was an attempt early on, about 5-6 years ago, trying to figure out how to. There's some people that wanted to get into the cannabis space with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things about it is that it's more expensive because of the technology, because of the coating. It's more expensive to produce. Therefore, large ag or big ag isn't as interested at purchasing this technology because it doesn't make sense when you're working off of pennies as your margin. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I find traditionally when you look at legal grows, 2 to 3% is going to be your fertilizer cost. And it really shocks me as a guy that's kind of like the nutrient guy, the plant guy. That's always the first thing that gets chopped when they need to tighten the budget, right? And you're literally taking away from your yield quality when you do stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I'm speaking more along the lines of traditional ag. So,
Right.
for cut flower growers, things like that, they have much lower margins than us. So there's a little bit more margin for us to bring a higher quality product that costs more to make in cannabis because, you're looking at, probably netting like $100, hopefully $100 a square foot if you're growing, right? Something like that. So there's a few people before that saw this potential. I was introduced to them. I got brought in to test it, and the people that were there they're trying to get us off the ground. Weren't really in touch. It was kind of a hustle. Kind of felt like a Chad hustle. So the whole thing kind of fell apart. But I still had this technology and I was testing it, and I'm like, this is awesome. So I reached out to the people that originally tried to get this off the ground that worked with NASA, and I started a dialogue with them, and I said, I think there's some potential here. I want to do some tweaks. So I made some adjustments to their NPK and their micronutrient ratios, and then did 2 years of development with it, and then got to the point where I was really excited. I was really excited with the results. Like I was seeing, much higher growth rate in veg, anywhere from 20 to 30%. That was my first, right initially when I started using it in veg, I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And I was comparing it to another very popular water soluble brand. I'm not going to name their name because I think they're a great company, but I was just comparing it with something that I would typically use that was, that was affordable, that a lot of people use, and just trying to compare that, like nothing special. And, my first little trial got incredible results on the yield. The 20 to 30% and growth on the vegetative level translated into flower production as well. So it was 20 to 30%. My original trial was basically the control was this water soluble fertilizer, and then I did 3 different rates of the Beanstalk, to see what rates, because they didn't know when they gave me like the application rates. It was like cubic by cubic yard, right? And I'm sitting here like, no one understands that. Like I need to know what it is per gallon of soil. So I started to build what it was per gallon. Sorry, that's.
All right.
And then it's been off to the races to get people to understand what this technology is. It can be a water-only product. I still like to use biostimulants. You might have times where you have to add like a calcium or magnesium earlier on with certain types of cultivars. So it's not. I don't want people to get confused and think, yes, for 90% of the plants you grow, this is all you're going to need. All right. But if you have a stress event, if you have some kind of environmental thing going on, or if you have a pest pressure, all the other principles apply. Like if you have an incredible dry down in your media, you will get an EC spike in the soil and the substrate, and you will have to like purge that and flush it and reset it. So it's not that it's not outside of the realm of all other fertilizer practices. I just want everybody to be aware of that. So, it's just a way of eliminating a variable of having to mix nutrients. And if executed properly, you can feed like a buffered pH water the entire time successfully, which I'm showing over at, at the Pirate Ship and over here at My Tree at this company here. And I helped develop the product, but even they did not trust it when I presented it to them during the design phase. And they still wanted to put in a fertigation system. So now we have this really nice fertigation system that I only use for kelp and yucca once in a while, and sometimes a little Calmag if needed, but that's it. And most of the time it's just straight RO water with a little bit of potassium bicarbonate in there as a buffer, and
Right.
we're good to go. And they've, now they're at the point where they're like, okay, like we don't need all this stuff anymore. I'm like, yeah, I was trying to say, but it's cool. Like that's the learning curve, because so much money is invested in these grows, and so much, and we all know that if you lose a harvest, that could be the end of your grow. So to ask someone to trust these pellets that do look a lot like Miracle-Gro, right? If you're just a layman, they're going to be like, oh, hell no.
Right.
That doesn't add up. But what I'm saying is that I put 4 years behind this. I've tested it. The brand that I work for here is ranked like the number 1 to number 3 any given month. And all of our flowers produce Beanstalk. This is like the first kind of craft market I've broken into with this product. A lot of outdoor grows and hemp growers were adopted to it a little earlier because a lot of them had experience with other types of prill or controlled release or time release fertilizer, right? And just to be clear, there's slow release, there's time release. Those are pretty much the same thing, and then there's controlled release. And sometimes that it just gets kind of thrown out there. I saw one little comment up there. So controlled release goes back to that prill, the nano size holes, and how those minerals get released at a specific curve. So you're not going to get 100% potassium in the beginning. You can get more nitrogen. You can get more of that potassium when you need it, which is really week 3 to week, 7 or 8.
Just to stop on chat here, someone asks, how are you going to flush the time fertilizer? I'm assuming you're just basing application rates running out just as the plant's finishing.
Oh, as far as flushing, here, let me plug you in here because I had to get out of my house. We're doing construction and my Wi-Fi was not working. So let me just charge this real quick. All right,
No.
cool. So when I say it's hot too, my phone just said the temperature is too hot.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, fuck.
so sorry guys,
No worries.
totally disorganized. So when I'm talking about flushing, I'm just talking about getting some leachate, like 10 to 20% leachate. The final flush at the end, you're really just triggering senescence. So by that time, what you're going to notice is that the minerals are already starting to be exhausted in the substrate. By the time you reach like week 8, right around there. And if you push it harder, meaning if you have a shorter flowering variety, then I would recommend purging that media on a weekly basis. So you're just kind of resetting it. But typically we're running, 9.5 week cultivars. That's usually what the industry is. So by week 8, all I would recommend is just, you're just getting some runoff. That's it. And then doing a pour through runoff test, checking the leachate, checking your pH. All of those practices still should apply. So what I do is I take like if I've got like 1,000 plants in a room, I'll take a small sample size of anywhere from 6 to 10 plants and do a pour through runoff test once or twice a week just to see my trend. Now, pour through runoff tests can also be deceiving. So if you see something off, then there's different types of tests, like a core test, core soil test, or a slurry test, where you can get more defined readings.
Uh-huh.
And if I start to see like if I look at a plant and it's looking unhealthy, right? And I do a pour through, and let's say my pH is really low and my EC is really high, well, I'm going to assume that's a calcium lockout. And then I'm going to look at other samples to see if this is just an aberrant plant, like one plant had an issue, or whether this is a trend that I'm going to start to see a week later. I went a little bit too much into detail on that, but those are the principles that we should be practicing no matter what fertilizer we use, as far as managing our irrigation and managing our plant health. And at the end, like if you just so you know, if you still have a lot of fertility left in the prill and you flush, you will get that EC down. But once it dries down, the EC is going to come back up, right? So I don't recommend like keeping the soil fully saturated or hypersaturated for that last week of flower. I think that's a mistake. I think it's really about you're basically trying to trigger senescence, stress out the plant a bit more. So it's kind of a dance between flushing it, letting it dry down, checking your runoff, flushing it, letting it dry down. Now, I've gotten to the point where it's not, I would recommend people being hyper vigilant when they first start using the product so they get to understand it. But I'm at the point where I don't have to do that anymore because I
Right.
just know where I'm at. I know which cultivars are heavy feeders. I know which cultivars are lower feeders. And then when I'm trialing out a new cultivar, I usually do a low, medium, or high rate group just to figure out what works the best. And then, I document all of that. And then I have just a little journal where I know what plants go into what bucket. And then I go from there. And the rest of the time I'm feeding water, right? And it's like a little bit more of the labor on that front end, understanding what the plant needs, ends up saving me a ton of labor later on. But most cultivars work extremely well just at the label rate. And I've got people DM me and ask me what's going on with this and that, and usually we talk about what's happening with their experience with the product. If something isn't going as desired, a lot of time it has to do with environment. A lot of time it has to do with too much light. A lot of times it has to do with a lot of things. They make those adjustments, the plants green up, or we're good to go. But Beanstalk's going to help you become a better grower, but it's not going to turn a crappy grower into a good grower. Like you
Right.
still have to practice, with the plant. But once you get it down, it makes things, which, really for most people it's one run, and some people knock it out of the park right out of the bat. But once you get it down, it's something that that's an incredible resource. And I have a bunch of people that work uh, with me and for me here, and they've never grown cannabis before. And there was a little bit of a debate, and we went to using uh, rock wool for our moms, and there was so much trouble trying to manage the fertility in the rock wool for people who had never really grown cannabis before. So I said, hey, let's just switch back over to the beanstalk. Let's see how that goes. Go back to beanstalk, and they're all like, this is so much better, so much easier,
Right.
less labor, less work. But going to the rock wool is actually a great tool for them to learn, how to work with water soluble fertilizers, how to work with some of these substrates, and then also to understand the benefit that beanstalk provides.
Very cool. Very cool. When I did the original post, the cream sugar and Calmag post, someone was commenting about they're having issues with pH. Do you ever find that with your product? People have pH issues or?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think pH issues can come up with any type of fertilizer, any type of substrate. I would like to know more information as far
Right.
as like what kind of pH issues, because if it's a low pH or a high pH, a lot of environmental factors can drive that as well.
Right.
So
Lower your
Oh,
pH.
yeah, overwatering. If you overwater, you're still going to get iron deficiencies at the tips. If you're having a mobility or an immobile nutrient issue, you're still going to see some of that yellowing at the tips. And that can happen under high PPFD lighting, especially people are trying to like really push the plant at higher light levels. I have found that beanstalk works really well under higher light environments, but still the same problems can occur with any other fertilizer. So if someone throws, if someone has I give like free consulting to everybody that's using Beanstalk, right? So if they have an issue, send me the data, like what's going on. Let's figure it out. Sometimes it's a plant pathogen. Sometimes it's other things. There's so many variables. And it's tough when you're a product like a lighting company or fertilizer company, and someone's grow goes wrong, and they're like, "It's because of your product," and I'm like, "Maybe, you
Right.
know,
So many
maybe,
factors.
yeah." Like this is like simple and layers of complexity. So let's figure out what's really going on, and let's help you. Let's investigate this. And part of like why I do what I do is because I love these puzzles. I love figuring out what's up. And for me and a lot of other people, Beanstalk's just kind of removed some variables that create more puzzles, and that doesn't mean that puzzles don't still come up.
Right.
So, so for, if anybody's having an issue, please hit me up or net up on Beanstalk. And we've usually been pretty good at, being there. I mean, I think we have been really good. I pride myself at being good and bringing the consulting quality that I have for other high paying customers to people that are using Beanstalk to help them turn it around. But yeah, to answer your question, depending on the substrate, depending upon your irrigation rate, depending upon your environment, depending upon your photosynthetic rate, depending on your leaf surface temperature,
Right.
you can have pH issues, you can have EC spikes. I've seen it all, and uh, I put the plants through a ton of stress to see what occurs with it. So, you're still going to get some of these things. I will say that I found that it's less exaggerated with lizards. If I lost you there, I would say that Beanstalk is less, when the problems occur, there's less exaggeration. Like it's not, there's a little bit more of a window of time to correct things.
Okay. Just to touch on something, the first thing when I saw your product, I looked at the NPK values, and there's not much phosphorus in there at all.
Yep. Yeah.
And I'm kind of like PK is important in flower, but like you say, it's more about P in the end, and it transitions, and it's more about K at the end, right? With big like calcium's big in the end of flower, sulfur's big in the end of flower, but in the beginning, it's phosphorus, and that seems like a really low phosphorus number to me. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So why it's low is it's because it's incredibly bioavailable at that rate. Water soluble fertilizer is not bioavailable. So the reason why you see things like a 0,50,30 as a PK boost is because most of, like, you're maybe getting 10% of that to the plant. The rest of it just either precipitates in the substrate or runs right out. right?
Oh, I talk about phosphorus all the time, and I argue with nutrient companies, and I argue with other cultivators, and I'm like, they're like, this is enough. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's not readily available. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a big proponent, so I use point 0.3 grams per gallon of MAP in the first 2 weeks of veg, including in my rooting media, and also during the first 2 weeks of flower.
Yep.
Um, right? Just having that
Yep.
extra P there. And I use product microbial mass. Uh,
Nice.
Bacteria consortium mobilizes phosphorus, keeps it soluble.
Yep.
And, you know, I like doing side by side tests. I'm like you, the proof is in the pudding, right?
Absolutely.
Uh, I've done stuff where I ran 12 different cultivars. The only thing I changed was adding microbial mass.
Yep.
And I plants with an OG heritage really love their phosphorus.
Yep.
And if you have it, you give it to them before the stretch takes off. I really notice the stack tightens and you get
Yes.
more yields and whatnot. So that's very cool. That's cool that it is more available. It is a thing where I see it just people don't give enough phosphorus. And I'm like, you know what? If you just use a little, and every time people come back to me, they're like, wow, my stack was way tighter. I yielded way more, et cetera. Right. So,
Well, it depends on, and so there's a thing. So it depends on when you use phosphorus, and it depends on how you use phosphorus. And phosphorus's number one role is in root development. Now, there's a secondary role that we don't fully understand. UC Davis has done some research on it. Why would it create larger bud sets? Well, it's almost like a shock or a trigger to that root system to create that increased flowering or more of that compact flowering size. It's usually almost used. It's almost like a signaler to the plant when you give a high rate of phosphorus
uh-huh.
to the plant at specific times. But that's just like not really fully understand yet. And really, historically, the reason why you see these bloom fertilizers having such a high amount of phosphorus is because a lot of agricultural land or a lot of agricultural soil was so phosphorus deficient from like the 70s onward. So these
Oh,
bloom
okay.
boosters became a trend. And then when cannabis kind of came in, people were just using whatever was around. And then it became a thing, but we didn't really understand why it became a thing. And one of the things that's interesting is I have given, and I'm sure everyone's seen this, I've seen this, but if you give too much phosphorus, I've seen a lot of foxtailing, right? Like the bracts and everything kind of elongate if you overdo it.
Yeah.
Have you seen that before, right? Um,
Yeah, or elongated growth.
Elongated growth. Yeah, if you overdo it. So I have added PK boost with the Beanstalk at the time I would traditionally just to see what would happen, and foxtail like crazy,
Oh,
like way
okay.
more than before. So and with soil testing this and that, I know that I'm getting the phosphorus that I need for the plant, but because it's being released through the prill, it's bioavailable. So we don't have to add that additional 10x and slap the plant with it, which ultimately just gets leached out into your sewer or your groundwater, which is not good. So we don't want
Right.
nitrates or phosphorus
Oh,
going down into the ground soil. Yep. So
very cool, very cool. And you talk about slurry tests. Have you guys done any like leaf tissue samples to just kind of see, where your
we
plant?
we did early on. I would love to be able to do that here, where we have 10,000 plants going at any time in a controlled environment. The problem with it here is that this is a state that's incredibly regulated and has a lot of silly rules. So we are looking for partners in California where it's a lot easier to get leaf tissue out. Like I can't, everything here is tracked. So I can't send dehydrated leaves out of the building even though there's no THC.
Okay, well, I can probably help you up. Just to kind of throw it out here.
Mm-hmm.
I work at Bloom's Grow Tech here up in Canada, and we are going to be bringing in Beanstalk Agriculture for our customers and up to Canada for everyone to try out. A&L Labs here in Canada does leaf tissue sample testing for NPK analysis. They also do pathogen testing. They got the
Great.
whole of it covered. So that's one thing we could probably help you guys out with in that regards and getting some testing done and really looking at the stuff. Like I'm really about that. And like you mentioned pathogens before, like ignorance is not bliss. And I don't know if you saw that Dark Heart post about 200,000 tissue samples in the last 2 years and
Yep.
90% of them test positive for HLV, right? Like it's
Yep.
ignorance is not bliss, whether it's pathogens or like you say dialing in your fertigation program. Like these
Yep.
tools are available to us now. I encourage my clients to do that, because if we take leaf samples every week of flower, like we can dial your fertigation into like the point, right? And like
Yep.
you said, different amounts of elements are being required at different times in the plant's growth cycle. And, it's not just one static linear thing, right? Like you
Yep.
say, constantly changing and evolving in the plant's needs, whatnot. So very cool, very cool. What else do I want to say? Oh, let's talk about media. Obviously, rock wool is not really media where you're going to use your product with, but
No.
cocoa, I grown
Yep.
cocoa, works in
Yep.
cocoa.
Yep. Cocoa, peat moss, tuber. There's a specific type of peat moss that I like a lot called pinstrip. But all of those different medias will work. We even had people that are putting it, even sandy loam, even, topsoil, people are using that. People have, use that for hemp and other types of things that are low cost. So basically whatever's available, I always recommend getting a soil test done and figuring out what your analysis is, and then contacting us to provide you a rate. And it's usually a lot lower than the label rate if you've got any kind of, fertility in your soil starting. So just, all those will work. We've talked about the rock wool thing, but for me, I really don't even want to support any product going into rock wool. I think rock wool is an unsustainable product. I know it works really well for people. For rooting cubes, I use it for rooting cubes, but going into these blocks and slabs, it doesn't really biodegrade well.
No,
It's not a great product sustainably. I think for like clone cubes and things like that, I mean, it's a smaller amount. And there's like limits, like sustainability is like walking upstairs. But when you've got, a couple tons of rock wool that you're kicking out of your facility every month, that just sits there and doesn't do anything in a landfill, I think that's really terrible. And I know that there's some products to recycle and all this, but I don't really see that being adopted. So I prefer that people try and use products like cocoa or peat moss, which can be used for other things. Like any of my spent soil, I either donate to people that have gardens, or we have like massive beds outside of, not in Pennsylvania, but back in California where my lab is. We have massive beds where we're growing leafy greens and vegetables with the spent soil and a little bit more beanstalk and going. Also just some of these states, they don't even let you recycle. Like we're not even allowed to recycle our media here without it being this incredible red tape process. So if I was kicking out all this rock wool, I know it's going right to a landfill. And if I'm looking at like whether I want peat moss hitting a landfill or rock wool, I'd rather the peat moss hitting a landfill, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I came from the legal realm. I was at a master grower for 14 months previous to this for a cannabis company. And before that, another cannabis company, kind of helping them get going, solve some issues and whatnot. But yeah, I've seen that too in facilities. And like one facility was a newer one, and they had literally like a mountain out back of just their rock wool, and they hadn't even figured out what they were going to do with it yet, right? So yeah,
Yeah. And,
cocoa myself too, and it's sustainable and whatnot. And so another thing, on your account, you grow in beds, correct?
no, not here.
Oh,
No, I
okay,
grow in
really?
containers. I've grown in beds.
I see
Um,
beds in all your pictures there. It's just super tight canopy, I guess, eh?
yeah, it's one plant per square foot, and it's 1.5 gallon pots, so small pots.
And cocoa, or what are you growing
No,
in?
peat moss.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
very good.
it's a Penstrip 520 plant. That's the one I like.
Wow.
For
Yeah, no,
six,
the results someone's pegging me for saying master grower. Hey, that's the term. I don't label myself that. Oh, they're all on it now. I
Give
prefer
them a break. Give them a break. Your name is Poots. That's all I got to say.
I prefer professional, anyways.
Yeah.
Very cool, very cool. So, what would you say if clients talking to you and they're just getting going? They're saying, thinking about beds, thinking about containers. Are you going to steer them one way or another with your product to get better results?
I will for a number of reasons. You can use beds. Beds work well for a lot of applications. I just have problems with beds because of all the pathogens that we were just discussing. So I like the plants being in individual containers. Now, I do like the thought process behind beds as far as there being a diverse microbiome on the soil. But we're growing a short cycle crop. Most of that benefit is seen off of soil that's kind of aging for a long period of time, and you have a diverse fungal root environment, all those kinds of things. So I think containers are best because you're going to have, it's better for risk assessment. So if you have a problem in a bed, all the plants in that bed are going to get that problem. If you have a problem in a pot, you can localize that issue and remove it very quickly if you're on top of it. I understand why people like beds. I understand all these things. But I just think beds are problematic right now, especially as we're trying to be cost competitive. But yes, you can use both products, and I have done beds. Plus, if you have to remove that soil, that's backbreaking work. Like, I fucking hate doing that. If you got an issue with a bed and you've got to take that dirt out and replace it, no thanks.
Right, right. And that's why
Yeah,
I see most people running beds is they want to do like a no-till. I just want to reuse my
yeah.
soil. Like they're doing top dressings and stuff like that. Um, as far as no-till, can your product be used in a no-till kind of environment if someone's like, I just, want to grow in soil and reuse the soil and just keep re-amending it and stuff like that? Can you use it in a system like that?
Yeah, it's totally possible, but again, I would say that you have to soil test. Um, and if you're outdoors, I think, right, and like Claire, someone said this, but beds are really good outdoors. Indoors, I would never do beds. Just to clarify, please don't. If you're setting up an indoor garden, you are a brave individual if you're trying to do beds. I've done it before. It was one of the dumbest things I've ever done. No offense to anybody, just my experience. Indoor beds, nightmare situation. I had like people not wanting to ever come back to work when we had some issues. Like root aphids. You are fucked if you get root aphids and
Oh,
you have soil
God.
beds, and that can
That
happen. All right, but if you're doing a living soil thing and you want to include beanstalk in that, I think it's incredibly possible to do that. I just would reduce the rate. Contact us. Let's
was,
help you build a program that works. The advantages to doing that is that you're not going to have a delay in getting the nutrition that the plants need when they need it. So it's a way of kind of kicking things into gear while the organic processes are going through whatever they're going through. But again, I would like to review that. I know a lot of people have used like Kiss Organics and biologics and thrown some beanstalk in there and had great success. There are living soil growers that will never, that shit post me that use beanstalk and their living soil beds, and they still shit post me and beanstalk, and I'm fine with that. I love it when people shit post me. I deserve it. It's fine. A good
right.
meme is a good fucking meme, but
Hey,
they will not even be honest about it, and then quietly be like, yeah, this shit, it works. It works, So, but you just want to reduce that rate and really just communicate with our team. Let us look at your soil tests, and then make sure, you're not making an error. The thing that I would say is that if you're not testing your fertility at every run, then maybe you shouldn't be doing no-till. That's one thing I would say. Like, make sure
uh-huh.
you're really testing your fertility after every run.
I don't I don't think most people do. Like I say that too. I went on a Grandmaster level show a while back, and that I'm just sitting there as they start talking no-till, so I just kind of kept quiet for a bit. And they're going on this and that back and forth, and then I just finally said, "Have you done a soil slurry test? Then you don't know what to put in." And so they're like, "What should we
Yeah,
put in that?" And I'm like, like you can make it better or worse just by doing that if you don't know, right? So absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
I just got to say that was a really funny comment, Badger. I don't know if you saw that. Oh,
I roll up.
indoor beds should only be for sleeping.
Right? And I ran a meme page. I used to share some of your memes. Large Pale Friend was my meme page.
Oh, right on. What happened?
It got deleted on Friday,
Oh no, man! I don't know how I haven't. I mean, I don't want to jinx anything. I don't know how I've survived this long though. I'm
right?
like, I'm like, I feel like I've gotten close, but I don't know. I change it up. I try and switch it around, be positive, um, or create some kind of like dialogue that we all can talk about. And then it seems to, like, I don't know, maybe the Instagram fucking demons or lords or whatever they are, like, oh, we'll let this guy pass.
I don't know.
Uh,
You know the right people apparently. So,
I
man,
don't. I don't.
meme pages. I was like, oh man, I don't like. I got 43,000 followers. It took me forever to get up to this. I don't want to get my main page deleted. So,
Oh, it's heartbreaking. Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah.
So
I
no,
guess it just depends on who you. I see. I piss off people, like people that use Kangen water in their grow, and then I piss off Korean farming people, and I just don't think they're people that are like report friendly. they don't really report. And I'm not asking these guys if you're in here. You probably got a few haters in here of mine, but please don't report me for Kangen water memes.
Yeah, right, right. I don't know. I used to do this thing where I did the grower spotlight, I called, and I just
Yep.
shared a picture of a grower every day, just to kind of give them exposure and shit. Someone reported that shit, right?
What?
Yeah, someone was salty. They probably didn't get posted in it or some shit, right? So
Yep.
that's what it is. You can't please everyone, right? But yeah, no, it
Yep.
was. I started doing that actually last year when like COVID was crazy. I started posting memes in my stories, and a lot of people were like, "That meant a lot to me." I've having shit time,
Yep.
and that put a smile on my face this morning, sort of shit, right? So,
Yeah, I've gotten the same feedback. I mean, we're this world's a fucking crazy ass place. If we can't laugh at it, then you're gonna just go crazy with it.
right,
And I mean, the shit that's going on all over the place, I don't know. It's just wild. And we grow weed because we didn't want to be working the job that everyone's working out there. And now we're facing this like weird pickle where now it's turning into that job that we didn't want it to be. And now I'm like, this is fucking hilarious. Like
right.
what happened? What happened? So now I'm just like, all right, I gotta make light of everything. Otherwise, I'm just gonna be a depressed ass motherfucker.
Right.
That's it. Yeah.
Life's too short to take it too seriously all the time. And yeah, like
Yep.
just getting going with the startup there when
Cool.
COVID first hit, and it really makes me laugh when we went from outlaw to essential so fast. Right, everyone's sitting at home, and I'm like, I'm growing weed, and I gotta go fucking work 7 days a week. What the fuck? You guys are all sitting at home getting money from the government and shit.
I know. I didn't get any. I didn't get a nickel.
Me neither, bro.
I didn't get a nickel. I was like, I'm still getting paid. Oh no. I guess I could have got a nickel, but I felt weird about it. It's like I can't talk this shit about with the government and then take a fucking check from them. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like fuck the government. Oh wait, a handout. I'm like, yeah. Like,
Woo!
yeah. No, I'll keep doing what I'm doing. Like I'm fine with that. So
Awesome.
I'm not gonna hate on people that take a check, but like, you don't bite you don't bite the hand that feeds you. There's a weird little double. This world's just full of weird ass double standards, and whether it's 10 pounds of light or
I'll say the caveat is that they have that 1500-watt light, and it's deployed 9x9. So they're, you know what I mean?
I
It's
know
accurate,
it's totally
but
possible. Totally possible.
it's
Yeah.
it's not the right way to deploy LEDs in my thoughts. They don't have like that spread side lighting that HIDs traditionally do.
Yeah, and if you have a light that's lighting up a 9x9, it should work really well in a greenhouse. It shouldn't be like an umbrella blocking out the sun. That's just my thought on that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I see it more like guys where they had like high bay HPS applications.
Yeah, for sure.
They
Fulvic
want
acid.
out.
There's one question here. Fulvic acid plus beanstalk, less beanstalk. Yeah, I'd say you probably could reduce the rate. I think you're going to have more use on that, but I would play around with it, Fackler. That's a really good question. I've also had good and bad experiences with different fulvics and humics, and I don't use it all the time, and I can't use it in a drip. I don't know how people are using fulvics or humics in a drip system without causing mad problems. You
Oh
know,
no, your Netafim filter hates you.
Yeah, no, yeah, it looks like Swamp Thing,
Right. Right.
after like week two.
So
So
on that note, I am the Synganic guy. I
cool.
grow with ionic mineral feeds with organic chelation. I'm a huge believer in it, right? It's
Yeah, me too.
all the plant needs is those 14 elements, but we can still find gains, right? And find increases in quality, yield, all those things. Pardon me, COVID. Um, so someone asked earlier, is your product organic or synthetic? It's synthetic PKs, correct?
Correct. Yeah, there's nothing organic about it except
Yeah,
whatever substrate you put in it.
right,
So
right.
and that I can talk forever, but really we're just trying to stair step out of water soluble fertilizers that are just running right off into the ground, right? So it's a step for scale because you don't see scale growers that are using a lot of organics. There's a few, but most are just using really cheap salts. So this is cost competitive with those salts and also more sustainable. So it's really a middle point. It would be great if we were all using organic inputs that are naturally derived from our surrounding areas. Just that's not the world we live in. Plus, there's a lot of practices on collecting those organic inputs that are not sustainable that organic growers do not even talk about. And
Right.
there should be a big conversation to really understand what the actual impact is of what inputs we're putting in the plants, and really do an analysis on how we can improve that. This is just our attempt to move that conversation forward with this product. Is it where we will be in 100 years? Probably not. Hopefully we'll be completely microbial fertilizer based. I think that's the future, is microbial fertilizers. This is just working closer and closer. Do I mean KNF? Sort of.
Awesome. So you guys have the 4 products.
Yeah.
Let's cover each one. Let's just kind of like educate the people a little bit more about it. So start with the first one here.
The first, so we have V-Basis, which is kind of an all-in-one vegetative fertilizer. You can use that for moms, and you can use that for your starts that are going into flower. It is a shorter release time. And then we have, so it's like 70 days. So if you use, I'm sorry, I'm still laughing. If you have I'll own my shit, guys. I'm just letting you know, like, and I've been wrong a lot too. And I'll be like, I'm fucking wrong. Like, I'm just a fucking dumb walking monkey like the rest of us. So, so we have V-Basis, which is our veg all-in-one. We have Fortify, which is just calcium nitrate. We have K-Boost, which is potassium and magnesium. That's where the additional magnesium comes into play to work with the Fortify. And then there's Absolute Flour, which is a 90-day product, which we can add in before. Did I say that right? I got my head straight. So Beanstalk is our veg to flour. So you can use it for veg, but it's designed specifically for our flour. It's got that extra potassium in it and a slightly different release curve. Some people prefer using Absolute Flour over the V-Basis for their moms or their nursery plants. I have found that for some cultivars, the Absolute Flour works really well. The V-Basis is going to have a quicker release of nitrogen, works really well for like those starts that are like the 5-inch pots, your 8-gallon, quarter-gallon pots. And then those are getting transplanted up into your final container that has Absolute Flour, Fortify, and the K-Boost in it.
Very cool. So the 14 elements?
14 elements? All of them?
Yeah. Do you have silica included in your product?
Silica is not in our product. So if you want to use an additional silica, you can. Silica and calcium are kind of interchangeable as far as what they do inside of the plant. I think silica can actually be used to create an effect. There are different types of silica. There's potassium silicate, and then there's monosalicylic acid, which is derived from potassium silicate. Monosalicylic acid is not stable if you dilute it. So, it doesn't work really well in like a stock tank. It's kind of like you mix it into your complete reservoir and then feed. So potassium silicate's going to work better in like a dosing system, things like that.
Though it's 95% plant unavailable is the thing I don't like about it. Right?
I know. And there's, and Parasite's got a granular, that product that works really well with Beanstalk, that a lot of people have kind of adopted and used. And, I think you have to apply the Parasite once a month if you want to keep it going.
Very cool. Very cool. Wow. Thank you for enlightening us all today, man.
You got it.
And it's, it's something new and people are like, what? Right? And
yeah, I know.
I feel like that's kind of groundbreaking and moving forward. And like you said, like when it comes to commercial, it's all about efficiency and labor and dollars, right? Yeah. So I think about a place as that where we're hand watering and mixing batch tanks like by hand and stuff. And if all you had to do is just pH your water and go, like that would have been a huge time saver right there. So
100%. Awesome. Cool. Well, I'm going to post this live. I'll make sure to post this live. I know people have been asking this. So yeah.
That's what I usually do. Leave it up and then people can come back. Because I like when I interview people, get technical as fuck. I don't care.
Great.
If the followers have a problem, they don't know what that is, pause, go look it up. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
we're here to like spread information and knowledge is what I want. And Beanstalk Agriculture's in chat there. They said if you have any more questions, just reach out to them. Absolutely. Then just kind of on an ending note, is there anything new on the horizon coming from Beanstalk Agriculture that you guys are working on for the future?
Yeah, we are working on a few things, and I'm going to give the typical answer, which is I'm not going to talk about it.
That's cool. That's enough.
But
Oh, like,
we got a few things in the mix there. Our first priority is really just establishing trust, like what I was talking about with the growers out there, letting them know we have their back, that we've created a product that we really believe works, and that there's a lot of people out there that believe work, and really just working on changing the paradigm. Once we kind of get people to understand that this isn't scary, this isn't going to throw or ruin their garden, right? This is going to help them be successful. Then I'm looking forward to releasing some more of these new products. But we need to get these 4 products out. And I just want to thank everybody that supported me and Beanstalk. You guys have been great, and this has been an incredible journey. And to be a part of this tribe, which is really an international tribe, let's be honest, like we're all over the world because of
right.
this plant. And I'm super pumped. So, thank you. And if you guys have any questions, please hit me up. We're going to be running some more specials, and we're going to be running some more giveaways and things like that.
Very
But
cool.
yeah, just and again, if I'm available every Monday to do this, so if you want to do this again, it's been a great conversation. Thank you, Great White.
Absolutely. And I think with we can have up to 4 people on the split screen. So Nick, who's in chat, the Rooted Leaf, a buddy of mine, he's a biochemist, and that's their organic line.
Cool.
Yeah, he comes on a lot, and he'll talk your ear off about carbon and whatnot.
Cool.
Great guy.
Cool.
But yeah, absolutely, I'd love to do this again if you guys are into it. And it's been super enlightening. And I'm a huge believer in the proofs in the pudding. And I saw your garden first before I saw the product. And that's what you grow the fire, man. Simply
Thanks,
put.
bro. Thanks.
So if you can, get that sort of quality with lowering your inputs, lowering your labor, making your grower more efficient, of course I'm fucking interested and curious, right? So
Cool.
absolutely, absolutely. So the next step is we're going to bring some of you guys' product up here to Bloom's Grow Tech, and we're going to get it out to some growers here in Canada, and we'll spread the word, right? So
Awesome. Thank you.
awesome.
Thanks, guys. I'll post this soon.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for your time
Enjoy
this
your
morning.
day. Take care. See
Okay,
ya.
take it easy.